Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Cosmic Perspective. On today's episode, I speak with my roommate Joey all about psychedelics, specifically magic mushrooms. And on this episode, we get to talk about our experiences with fear, anxiety, understanding that we are often going to be misjudged when speaking about these substances. And so we talk about our reservations with that and how we previously probably would not have posted a podcast like this. But after our experience, we have come to realize that that is the exact opposite of what we should be doing. So on this podcast, I think you're going to hear some really interesting stories, some things that if you've never done psychedelics are probably not going to make a whole lot of sense to you, but they should be interesting regardless. So without further ado, here's the podcast. Thank you, Joey. Thank you for coming on the podcast.
You are certainly welcome, sir. I didn't have to make too far of a journey to get here.
Yeah, it was a whole walk into the other room.
A whole 6 feet.
Yeah. So we're going to just jump right into what we want to talk about because we already know.
We going deep.
We just need the listeners to know this is about to be a rabbit hole that we are going to go very deep into and very abstract and conceptual. So have fun with this, guys.
Yeah, strap on your thinking caps.
Because this one is going to be a thinker.
We about to mind fuck you.
We about to fuck your mind, motherfuckers. All right. For real, though. So Joey and I were both going through kind of our own creative blocks. We had kind of our own different type of creative blocks. I'm going to let Joey talk about his first because his story is fucking wild. And I feel like mine's not even going to top it, but you know, I think his story's worth telling. So Joey, tell a little bit about like kind of what was your initial reason for dropping, and then explain kind of what type of prescription we decided to follow here.
So I mean, like I've dabbled with psychedelics a lot in the past few years and stuff, and I've gotten a lot of benefits from them. And mushrooms are something kind of new to the past year. Before I'd done acid a couple times, I had some profound experiences. Mushrooms, started to figure out there's like a lot of emotional benefits that I think you get, like these emotional releases. Been listening to a lot of podcasts talking about them and people just saying how they can kind of have breakthroughs. And, you know, I'm a pretty introspective dude. I work on myself a lot. I meditate every day. I really look at like where I need to do better and stuff. I'm an artist. I'm always pursuing art. And through that, you kind of get vulnerable. You get worried about, you know, what people are going to think. And I've known, like, you know, I could tell myself, it doesn't matter what people think, you know. I could remind myself, like, you're not going to die. Like, you know, if someone doesn't like your shit. And that's easy. And I could tell myself that all the time. But I couldn't get over these. I could feel them in my body, like these roadblock, like this fear that was always in the back of my mind while I'm creating. Like, and I could create all day, but I create all this work and I never put it out because I have this fear of releasing it, this anxiety that builds up, and it's easy to just put stuff on the shelf. And I knew that's something I've been battling with and I've been meditating on, but I decided, like, people are like, yes, psychedelics can really help you just iron out those kinks. And I don't know. I had it in my head. I was like, the heroic dose. Like, Terrence McKenna always said, like, heroic dose, 5 grams of mushrooms in pure darkness. And he's like, you'll have a life-changing experience. And I'd never taken that many mushrooms before. And it'd been a long time since I had a profound experience. So I decided, I'm like, let's go down this rabbit hole. Let's see if it can do some help.
Yeah, let's see if Terrence McKenna really knows what he's talking about.
And he came through.
Motherfucker came through in the clutch.
Wild stuff. And, like, I mean, psychedelics get a bad rep a lot of times from people, and
they make you go crazy.
Yeah, they make you. I mean, I won't deny it. They make you go crazy a little
temporarily.
bit. Yeah, temporarily. But it's like, you know, we could go into like what is crazy, but I don't even want to go there. It's just like there's a lot of benefit to them. I don't take psychedelics to go to shows and fucking see trippy visuals. I've taken them recreationally before. They're a fun drug. I mean,
yeah,
way more fun and safer than drinking, I would argue. Most of the time, but
yeah, without a doubt.
But no, if you want to use them as medicine and for personal growth and spiritual growth, like just Google the medicinal purposes of mushrooms.
That actually leads me into a definition that I want to make sure that we clarify, because oftentimes when people think about drugs, they think about just the term drugs, right, which is probably invented by the CIA. I don't know, but it just seems like a like
just
all right,
lump everything
let's
into
just put
drugs.
every type of thing into drugs. Like Tylenol
But
is a drug.
take alcohol out of
Yeah,
the
the
drugs,
alcohol's not a
and
drug,
Take
even though it
Xanax
is.
out of there, and take the antidepressants out.
Oh yeah. Oh, all the stuff we can make money off in pharmacology. But so anyway, in terms of our particular drug use, we both consider ourselves psychonauts, and I'm gonna define that for you guys so that you understand why we kind of view that this is a good definition. So, according to the R Psychonauts subreddit, which is clearly the pinnacle of references.
Reputable source.
No, but it really is a really good definition. So the definition is, a psychonaut is a person who explores activities by which altered states of consciousness are induced and utilized for spiritual purposes, or the exploration of the human condition, including shamanism, lamas of the Tibetan Buddhist tradition, sensory deprivation, and both archaic and modern users of entheogenic substances in order to gain deeper insights into the mind and spirituality.
Yeah, couldn't have said it better.
I mean, yeah, I think it's a perfect definition. So that's kind of our view on the drug use of psychedelics. So it's very different than like somebody just shooting up heroin. You know
I like where it says utilized for spiritual purposes and the exploration of the human. Because that's really, I'm a very spiritual person, but I don't go to church. I don't follow an organized religion. I love the quote, God is not a religion, but a spiritual bond. It's like, because it really is, it's a personal thing. I mean, you could be a Christian, but your experience with God, everyone's going to have their own experience. So, I mean, I feel like religions are good pathways to it. But I don't know, a lot of historians would argue a lot of these religions came from psychedelics and the psychedelic experience. I mean, it's such a wild thing. I couldn't imagine experiencing that in a time where there was no knowledge as to what's actually being, what chemicals are going on, why you're having these visions and feelings. Then you would surely be like, it's God, it's the devil, it's a witch, I'm possessed. But, I do believe that, a lot of the religions probably did start or were based around.
Yeah, and like eating mushrooms or, peyote and any of those ones that, LSD obviously synthesized in, the 1930s. So things like mushrooms and things that just grew naturally, that if you just ate it, you would trip your balls off. Yeah. And I mean, there's going to be some human beings who are just like, hey, what's this mushroom? And then they eat it and then they fucking have a trip. Yeah. And they're like, dude, I don't know what that was, but that was amazing.
When you look at like ayahuasca, it's in like Amazonian cultures for hundreds of years. They've been doing these things, thousands of years. And it's like, so these things really do go back, and there's a reason people use this, and there's a reason a lot of people tell the same stories of, these insane, life-changing experiences that really kind of change and reform who you are as a person. I mean, that sounds scary. Like, oh, I don't want to change.
It is scary, but I find that with intention, you come out the other end with a newfound perspective, and it can be usually life-changing for the better. And I would say most often it is. However, I know plenty of people who have done psychedelics and they like clearly didn't really get like the super deep message.
Yeah.
And I think if you do it enough times, you eventually get there.
I've never seen it negatively affect people. They might have a bad trip, but most people after a bad trip actually get something good from it, because it's almost like, if you go to hell and that's your bad trip, well, when it's over, you really appreciate heaven. Not being there. Not being in this hell. And they can be scary, man. I didn't know what to expect taking 5 grams of mushrooms. The most I'd ever taken before was like 3, and that was even intense. But
yes, it was.
You were there for that one. And but there was something, I think really the prescription, Terrence McKenna, the important part to me was pure darkness. Close your eyes, go under the blankets, you're in a dark room. You're not, because if you have your eyes open and you're trying to interact with the world while you're on a psychedelic drug, you're taking in all these senses. If you really want to go deep and you want to wrestle with your consciousness and the human condition, you want to go, into yourself and experience that drug just purely in eyes closed.
It's your mind, man.
In your mind.
You want your mind to go.
And I think that's what really, I would say, you don't even have to take that much, but if you just went in a dark room and you closed your eyes and you just let experience. But intention, what you said, it's really, I had an intention going into it. I knew I wanted to work on some things. I knew there were some things that I've been battling, and I just, that was the intention going into it. And I mean, boy, did it come through, but even, tenfold, like more than I could expect. And
let's start from the beginning. So you eat the 5 grams, which, by the way, is a task in and of itself. This
Yeah,
shit, it's not exactly the best tasting thing. I recommend taking it with orange juice, just because, for starters, the citric acid activates the psilocybin so that you absorb it faster. It means a shorter duration overall, but a more intense peak.
Right, it's supposed to kick in fast. See, which
kicks in
that, and
faster.
I forgot to
Yeah,
drink
you didn't even
orange
do
juice.
it.
I didn't
But-
even drink orange juice.
But the orange juice, it also helps really mask the flavor. So if anything else,
true.
that's like another huge benefit of it. So you ate the 5 grams, and you and I were just talking. I was not participating. I was just kind of, again, your trip sitter, and I don't know, it was about 45 minutes or so before you're like, all right, this is starting to ramp up a little bit.
Yeah, it starts ramping up. It creeps up on you. I mean, if you're familiar with the experience, you kind of know what the come up's like. It's like building up, and you start feeling this weirdness, almost as
Anxiety.
Yeah, almost like an anxiety.
It's not a bad anxiety, but it's like a,
you feel
shit.
an energy. You feel like
think about like leading up to the top of a roller coaster type thing.
Yeah.
Like, it's going to be a fun ride, but you're still a little nervous when you're going up there.
So it was building up, and I was talking to you, and then at a certain part, like, words just get hard. You're just like, it just, your motor skills start slowing down or something. And I think you were doing laundry or something. You went out the back to do something. You're like, yeah, I'll be back. And I like stood up, and I was like, oh, like I gotta sit down. I'm like, all right, time to go to my room. Let's do this darkness. So I went and I laid down in my bed, closed my eyes, and and then probably 5 to 10 minutes later, boom, center of the universe. Just pretty insane thing.
Explain how it visually presented itself.
So I closed my eyes. I couldn't even. It's like, it's been like a week now, so it gets hazier and hazier. It's like a dream. You start to forget it. But there was this, the very beginning, this is so trippy. So I'm like, my eyes are closed. I'm in this like other world. It's kind of weird. I'm hearing these noises, and I don't, when I'm going to say that I heard voices, but I wouldn't even say more so that I heard voices that you just know. There's a dialogue going on, and I wouldn't even know if there was an actual voice, but I was communicating with this dialogue. And the first thing, and it sounded more like a them. It wasn't just a one thing. It was like it seemed like there was more, and they were like, the first thing is that they're like, what are you doing here? Because I was somewhere else. I was in a different place, and they're like, what are you doing here? Why are you here? And I was like, oh shit, like, oh, I'm not supposed to be here. Like, and then I was kind of like, like, I think I got some stuff to work on. And they kind of just like looked at me and like shook their head. And when I say they looked at me, I couldn't even tell you like who they were or what they looked, but it was kind of just this thing like,
it's a feeling.
Yeah, it was this feeling like, you silly bitch, we're going to take you for a ride. Like, and they were like, okay. Like, not that I would think that they would shut down and be like, all right, no, but your experience was, we'll get to that. But anyway, so they were just like, what are you doing here? I'm like, well, I think I got some work to do. And then they kind of gave me like, I don't think you need this, but let's go. And I was like, all right. And then boom, dude, like, such an intense, I don't know, if someone hasn't done psychedelics, it's hard to tell them. Like, maybe I was in my room for maybe an hour, and it might as well have been a million years, because what you experience in like a minute's time, they use the term time dilation, because it doesn't make sense what you can experience. You're sober, you close your eyes for 60 seconds. What can you can think about maybe 10 different things if you're rapid firing thoughts off. On psychedelics, you could go through like thousands of situations, and you could like think so many things through. It doesn't make sense. Simultaneously, like all your experience and all the, it's like watching a movie, a 3-hour movie in the snap of a finger, like the whole movie, and you retained it. Like, you experienced this thing, but it was the snap of a finger, and it felt like it was a year's worth of shit. So it's super intense, and the visuals I went through, basically what I experienced was like being torn apart. Like, they tore apart my like body, like my soul came out, and then I was in this other world where souls were just like washing and moving around. There's just thousands and maybe millions of like souls or entities, different things just swooshing around, and everyone was like, here, you try my soul, I'll try your soul. And we were all changing parts, and like at first we were humans, and I was seeing all sorts of, I saw like Shaq, I saw like some friends, that I knew. I was seeing a lot of people, and I'm assuming these were people that were like in my consciousness that day going into it.
Yeah.
I don't know where Shaq came in, but but I was seeing all these people, but it was kind of the message was like, look, we're all the same, but we're all different. Like we're one thing, but we're different. And I was experiencing being different people, like clearly not being me. And like when it came full circle, it was like, we're making you again. And now you're going to appreciate being you because you were something completely different, something so foreign. And then to go back to that familiarity and to really know yourself, to say you know yourself. It's like, I know myself deeply because I was not myself for what felt like 10,000 years. I was experiencing being different people. And at one point, it wasn't even people. I was in this, and this is the crazy part, and this might turn people off. I got to find a drawing of it. Maybe we'll find it after the podcast and put it in the footnotes because I've seen it out there. Someone's drawn what I saw. I've seen the animations, but I was like this weird blobby chicken fish thing. Like I was not a human, but there was thousands of these things, and it clearly felt like this other universe where these people, and it was just the strangest thing, but it felt normal. And I kept thinking, how is this different than being a human? Clearly in that world where I was, that was the norm and everyone had accepted it. And I was like living this life as this other fish, chicken, hybrid dolphin thing. I don't know how to describe it, but like years were going by, like time was just going on and I was getting comfortable being this thing. And I completely lost concept of me, my body. I'm tripping balls. I'm in this different place. I'm not even aware of my body. And that was the cool part. I think you can only get that from being in the pure darkness or whatever. But so I'm experiencing all this like time of just being this different thing, and they're taking it apart. And they kept saying, they're like, I knew that I was tripping, right? And I knew I had my eyes closed. Like I was still able to be like, I haven't lost the concept of like I'm on a drug. So like I kept getting the dialogue of like, yeah, you could open your eyes and this could be over. Like you could be done. Like you could get up, go to the bathroom, and the trip will be done, or you could stay here. And it was like torture, but at the same time, what is it, Stockholm syndrome? Like it was like parts of it were super intense, scary, made me want to leave. But then at the same time, it felt good. I felt like I was getting work done. Like I felt like this massage. I should say my whole body was kind of like trembling. My stomach was grumbling. And I was weeping. I was crying. I had like snot. I felt like I was in like the womb, like this mucus. Like, I felt just insane. Like I was going through this deep emotional release. Like the whole time, like, it just kept changing scenes, and it was so profound, the things I was experiencing. I can't even really put them into words, but it would literally make me cry and be like, oh my God, you have like these epiphanies where you're like, I get it. I can't even put it into words, but it's in your core. And I would just weep. And if you had a microphone in there recording me, you would have just kept hearing, oh my fucking God. Oh my God. Like, and then crying, and then like, oh my God. And then fuck, what, and just mind blown, like simultaneous. And they kept saying like, this could be over. All you have to do is get up, or you could keep enduring. And I was like, I'm going to endure. And I kept thinking like, there's more work to be done. And I felt like they were working on me. Cause like I said, I was being pulled apart this whole time and put back together as like a chicken thing, and then a fish person, and then this, and then Shaquille O'Neal. I kept getting, and they kept like, putting the puzzle pieces back together, but it wasn't me. And then they're like, oh, we'll try this one, not you. And they just kept trying it. And I knew like they weren't going to put me back together until I decided like I'd had enough. But I endured this for like an hour. And then I finally got up. I was like, I got to take a piss. So I went to get up, and there was like, all of a sudden when I decided, like, I was like, all right, I've had enough. It was like, boom, they put everything back together. And it was seen from like this bird's eye view, seeing my reality put back together. This apartment was like fractal destroyed. Like imagine this apartment being ripped to shreds. They put it all back together. Fucking mirrors went back on the wall. Everything got put back together. And I got put back together into my normal human body. But what I was shown was like all the things that I was self-conscious about. Like I'm an eccentric dude. Like I'm a musician. I'm a rapper. I'm a fucking artist, like comedian, like all these things that sometimes I feel guilty about. They were like, no, that's what makes you you. You are like the jagged. You're not perfect. You're rough around the edges, and like all these things that I always like, that is what made me me. And I was like proud of these things. And they're like, you're not going to hide from these things anymore. You're not going to shrink yourself down to be normal. Because so much time I'm out, I feel the pressure to be normal. And you're just raised like, oh, you can't say that. You can't do that. Well, if you feel it to your core, that's what you're supposed to say. And that's how you're supposed to act like that. But people are going to say, no, don't do that. Like, it was this profound experience of like, no, that's what you're supposed to do. That's what makes you you. You're not that chicken person. You're not that person. You are Joey Herrera, and you're in all your weirdness and all that. And it was like owning it, and it felt so good to be me. But I could clearly see all the pieces that make me unique and make me special. And it just made me be like proud of those things and being like, I own it, man. Like, and since it's been a week, dude, I feel like my chin's been higher up. Like I've just been, I thought maybe it would wear off, but it's like any fear I had is gone. Like I honestly don't feel that fear and anxiety that I had going into it. And I'd been working on it, but it's like it feels almost completely eradicated. And I'm not foolish enough to think that I'm never going to get anxious again, because being an artist, you're vulnerable and you're always going to worry about it. But it's really like, I would say 90% gone. And I just feel like I'm proud and I'm not scared of, all these irrational fears that I had for so long. But
you feel lighter.
So much lighter. And dude, the emotional release, I don't remember the last time I cried like a little baby, man. Like I cried hard, man. And once again, I'm not, I feel no guilt for saying like, I'm a grown man, I'm 27 years old and I wept like a little baby in my room. It felt good to release that emotion and just like, man, such a deep release. Like I felt like so much weight was taken off of me, and it was just such a beautiful experience. And it's like, I just put it into the best words I could, but it's almost indescribable. It's very hard to describe, and it's a personal thing. But to me, it was just, and that's the crazy part. So after that, the trip was pretty much over. I was still tripping a little bit. There was some afterglow, and then I was telling you about it in the moment. I was like, dude, I was just a chicken dolphin thing. Like, I was explaining it. And but it was just wild that, because I thought, you take 5 grams, you're gonna be on this journey for hours and hours. But it was like pretty much the peak. The most prolific part lasted about an hour and a half, and then it was like done. And I had like gotten, like I said, I was still in the afterglow, and things were still.
You're still tripping. Like your headspace is still there, but then like your language is back. And
but the work that I had went to do was done within like this hour period, and it was just this. I was so glad I did it. And going into it, I was wary, am I really going to get what people say they get from it? Like, is it going to be scary? Is it going to be torture? Is it going to be a horrible trip? Like, what am I getting myself into? And then in hindsight, I was like, because you even told me, you're crazy, man. Like, because it's a brave thing to do. If you took mushrooms before, you know how intense they are. To take 5 grams they call it a heroic dose, because you got to be you kind of got to, and I felt like a hero afterwards. Like I felt like I went on the hero's journey, man. Like I went through some insane shit I can barely describe, but it was stuff that took grit and stuff that I pushed through. And it was definitely like, it was a workout, man. Like it was an intense mental workout. And it was even physical, dude. Like I said, my body, I felt was like having spasms. And at the end of it, I was like stretching out, and I just felt like there's just things like, and it's like you could tell yourself like, oh, don't be scared of this. But that was like ingrained. Like all the ideas were like absorbed. My consciousness absorbed them or whatever. Like I don't, it's just like your body takes it in, and it now knows something that it didn't.
The most important parts always stick.
Yeah, and it's integration, and it's like, I reflect on it daily, and it's like, because it's one of the most profound moments I've had in my life. And I think it's like, it's going to be a moment I look back on. Like that was the big stepping stone. That's where like really I eliminated a lot of the fear I had left. I'd already been working on eliminating it and like getting out of my bubble and my comfort zone. But that was really like the last nail in that coffin. And it's like fucking just ready to just, put it out there and just keep grinding, man. And be the person I've always wanted to be, but have always been scared because of judgment. And it's just like, I want to be, I feel like I'm meant to be this person. And for so long, I've always just been like, oh, but I can't because this reason, or this person's going to think that. Even this conversation, maybe a week ago, I would have been scared to have, because, oh, what are people going to think? Oh, you're a fucking druggie. Oh, you do mushrooms.
You fucking Looney Tune.
Yeah, I don't even give a fuck, dude. Fuck you. Fuck you. If that's what you're thinking, fuck you.
Hey, man, if you don't know, then you don't know. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, I don't know. It's a whole other language that until you do it, certain things are you're just not going to understand. And that's not even like to be like talking down to you or anything like that. It's just like, no, legitimately, you have to try it to really understand, because the words are leaving out a lot of the things that you and I are going to get because we've been there. So we know what you mean in between it.
It's impossible to describe.
You can't.
And like, I think,
language falls short of these type of experiences.
Yeah, and like I said, it's a personal thing, so it's like,
and it's a feeling.
It's way more of a feeling. Like I said, there's definitely like this dialogue, but it felt more psychic than it was actually hearing. I mean, I did hear some crazy
there's a conversation,
music and shit
but
in there,
it's not always actually language. It's not always spoken language. It's just more of an understanding.
And like, and maybe like the message was, don't be scared. Well, it wasn't even said to me. It was like pushed into me. It was like, you are no longer scared. Like, it was more so like the fear has been removed and we threw it out. It's not in you anymore. So it wasn't just a message like, oh, go write this down and tell the masses. It's like, no, this was like put into you. Like, we recoded some shit, and this is how you are now.
We updated your code.
Yeah, Joey 3.0. Like, I don't know, but it felt awesome. And then like you asked me, you're like, so you think I should do it? And I was like, dude, I would recommend it. I shouldn't say anyone, but I would recommend it to anyone that's interested, because it was everything I needed. It was way more than I could have asked for. Super intense, but super. Knew that moment.
Let's make a
when
disclaimer,
I was
though.
Yeah.
Do mushrooms at a more normal dosage
don't
first,
take
guys.
5 grams.
Don't jump in the deep end of the pool. You know, you got to get comfortable in the shallow end before you can jump in the
setting
deep
is
end.
everything, and I was smart because even like you don't know, right? You're gonna put yourself in this state of almost.
Psychosis.
Yeah, psychosis, basically.
Temporary
yeah,
psychosis.
and you worry. You're like, would I go do something crazy? Am I gonna go jump out a window? That's always in the back of your head. But from all of my experiences, it's never like that. You're never irrational doing. I mean, maybe sometimes you do some irrational thing, but it's never that heavy.
It's not what people think it is.
And you don't. I mean, if you are a stable person and you're a positive and you're not suicidal, I don't think you're going to get suicidal thoughts just because you eat some mushrooms. I would say a suicidal person would get the opposite effect.
Yeah, they'd realize how important life actually is.
They would probably feel more of the love. But like I said, I was smart. Like, I did it in a setting I was comfortable with, our apartment. I reached out to you and was like, be my trip sitter, keep an eye on me. And you even
set your
told me,
intention
yeah,
to.
and you were like, you told me beforehand, well, yeah, like even if I fall asleep, man, you could wake me up if you're freaking out, if you're thinking about killing yourself, wake me up. And just to have that on standby. You don't want to, like, I could have tripped by myself and I'm sure I would have been fine, but you feel more comfortable knowing you have something to fall back on. You got a safety net. I had someone around that I trusted. And like, yeah, dude, it was such a dope. And that's why when I came out of it, I just knew I was changed and I was so excited. I was jumping. I was telling you,
were reborn,
like,
dude.
Yeah, dude, I was reborn. Really, like, literally felt reborn 1,000,000 times over. Like, reborn as a chicken dolphin and then like finally back as a human. And it just, oh man. And ever since, man, like I'm already a person that's exercising gratitude every day, but it's just easier, and it's just like,
yeah, you're already mindful. It's not like you don't have your shit together.
It's interesting because like the last podcast we did on meditation, and I'm still an everyday meditator, and mantras have always been a big part of my meditation because I believe you can reprogram your subconscious. If you're meditating, then like, if you have low self-esteem, well, at the end of your meditation, you should be like, I am beautiful, I am beautiful, I am beautiful, because your body will absorb that over time. Your subconscious will actually believe it, even if you're conscious. So I've always done mantras, and I've been doing mantras on those issues that I've been working on fear. Like, I don't care what other people think. I've been doing, and this past week when I was meditating, I'd go to do my mantras and there just wasn't this need. It felt like I didn't feel like I needed to, because those things had felt fully integrated. It's like, I felt like I was like, there's not an issue. Like, those issues aren't there anymore. I still do the mantras from time to time because it's a nice thing just to go through and it's a habit, but I literally feel when I'm meditating, like, I used to be able to go find the fear. I would think about releasing a song and I would instantly feel the fear, and then I'd have to meditate on it. And then I went searching for it on my last meditation, and it literally seems like it's gone. And it's just like, I don't know if that's permanent. I hope it's permanent. It's been a week. It feels permanent, but it's like, damn, man, it's magic mushrooms, man. Magical.
They definitely
stuff.
are magical. There's something to them. There's something to them that's different than LSD. I mean, having done both of them, I've not done any other major psychedelics, although I'm interested in some of them. There's something about mushrooms that feels inherently human, like that. Oh, we're supposed to be eating these, aren't we? Like
well,
it
when
just
you find out that half the earth is actually a mushroom, like
yeah, right.
like inside all the soil, most soil isn't actually dirt. It's actually composed of fungi, and it's just like, watch what's that podcast?
Paul Stamets.
Paul Stamets on Joe Rogan.
On
He'll
Joe
blow your
Rogan,
mind
yeah.
open on, just how
I mentioned
much
it before with the lion's mane, but yeah, it's
it definitely
magic
feels more
mushrooms.
organic.
It feels yeah, and it also feels like you're communicating with kind of almost. I know it's been said before. I think Terrence McKenna said it, that like you're basically communicating with everyone who's ever tripped before. Almost, it seems like it's a full room of people.
That's what I said when I saw Shaq in there. I was like, my instant thought was like, are these all people that have done heroic doses before? Because I think I saw like Jimi Hendrix, I saw some of the Beatles, I saw Shaq, and then that's instantly where my head went with like, oh, these must all been people that have tripped in the past. But then maybe not. I'm like, I don't know if Shaq's actually taken 5 grams of mushrooms before. It could have just been what's in my consciousness.
Yeah, it could be just some random thoughts.
But you kind of do feel like this community, mushrooms definitely feel like there's a personality communicating with you, where my experience with acid seems like
it's yourself.
You're dealing with just your brain, and your brain's opened in a new way, and it can do things it could never do before.
Mm-hmm.
But mushrooms doesn't necessarily give me that. It more so gives you like this wise personality is
like
telling
an ancient shaman is
yeah,
imparting
like,
knowledge
I
onto
don't
you.
want to say God, but almost like God. There's parts of like my trip where I thought it felt like meeting, the source. It felt like meeting God or whatever that grander the sense of the universe, like what makes everything tick and go. It felt like I was right there with that thing, and they were showing me in real time like what it really is. And it is, like I said, I was shifting bodies and being different things and being born again. And that's isn't that the circle of life? We're all going to die. And, if you believe in reincarnation, everything just keeps dying and being born and it's just this huge never ending cycle that goes on forever. And that's basically what I was experiencing visually. My eyes closed, crying like a little baby.
Crying like a little baby, dude. Hey, man, sometimes we need to cry and let it out.
I should say there were tears of joy for the most part. They weren't tears of like fear. There were scary parts of it, but when I was crying, it was from like utter astonishment and just like, it felt good too. Like I can't even describe how like good of a feeling it felt like,
It's cathartic.
Yeah, super cathartic. But yeah, so then Kevin decided, well, yeah, your experience sounded so awesome. Like I kind of want to experience that too. And then you had an interesting result when
I did have a very interesting result
when you took the heroic dose.
The heroic dose. So I've talked about it actually on I think it was on Bill's podcast. I mentioned my experience with kind of what you went to. I like to call it infinity because it kind of gives you this
Infinity's
concept.
a good word for it.
Well, it gives you this concept of infinity where you suddenly understand just how large that is in a way that your normal brain, I just really think, can't grasp infinity. But for whatever reason, in these states with these psychedelics, you are able to understand the entirety of the universe in that moment. And it literally only makes sense in that moment because you're like parallel thinking with so many different variables that the second you're sober, when you think back on it, you're like, I know I understood that, but I can't put myself back there. And so my experience with infinity prior to the heroic dose was a very bad time. But not in a long-term sense, because it was it's a thing I think about, maybe not every day, but I've definitely thought about it most days since that experience. And it was when I was trapped in a thought loop where I kept thinking, I just want this to end. I know I'm making it worse for myself. I know I just need to let go. And I understood everything logically, and I kept looping back to that thought. So no matter what I did, it's like a maze where the only exit is the entrance, but the entrance is already inside the maze. And so I felt like no matter what I did, no matter how I tried to think other thoughts, and it would lead me back to that thought loop. And I was trapped in it. And part of it is probably because I smoked weed on it. And the other part was that I had already tripped. It was my third trip in 24 hours because I tripped the night before. Then I tripped earlier that morning, which was a great time, and not like a major dosage or anything. And then I tripped at night. And the thing that spurred the whole thing off was me taking I took this really big mushroom. These were really high quality mushrooms that I just got lucky. This is my first batch of mushrooms I ever got, and they were like I've never gotten mushrooms that good since, actually. And I ate this mushroom and watched Cosmos, and just learning about particles and stuff, it just kind of like broke my brain a little bit. I was like, fuck. I'm like,
shit.
I don't understand. Like, why does any of this exist? And so that kind of triggered me into my thought loop. And so when I went into infinity, I lost the concept of myself. I heard voices, the kind of, like you said, the multiple personalities that were like, hey, you know, look at this amateur. He's making this so hard on himself. He's making it worse, man. He just needs to chill out. And I was going through kind of this existential crisis where I was like, man, like at the time it was like Robin Williams' death was kind of relevant. And so I was thinking, I'm like, damn, like if this is how people feel, like the feeling of being trapped, I felt like I couldn't get out of this experience and that it was never going to end. That feeling I understood. And although I didn't want to kill myself personally, I understood the concept of killing yourself there, because I was like, damn, this is how people feel. I could see why they would want to do it. And so I ended up having to reach out to one of my friends, and I ended up FaceTiming him and was like, dude, I'm freaking out. I'm like, I'm not having a good time right now. At that time, I was no longer in the thought loop. And by the way, the thought loop feels like a joke that they never give you the punchline. So the whole time you're about to get to the punchline, and it never gets there, dude.
Yeah.
It literally never gets there. It just keeps setting you up and then brings you right back to the beginning. And so my friend ended up helping me out, having me look up at the stars, and brought me back, you know. And when I went to infinity, I saw my lifetime. I kind of saw that everything was a loop, that time is a flat circle, right, from True Detective. But it put me into perspective of like, damn, like this whole thing's so beautiful. And so that was kind of my first experience with infinity. So I was thinking, oh, I'm probably going to go back to somewhere similar, but this time I'm like prepared, you know, I'm ready for it. I know how to handle it, and I'm way more experienced with psychedelics. You know, at the time that I did that was maybe like my 7th or 8th trip total that I went to infinity. So it was a bit overwhelming. And so I eat the 5 grams, which by the way was fucking so hard to eat 5 grams of mushrooms, dude. Every time I put more mushrooms in my mouth, I'm like, oh man, I still got 3 more grams to go. Yeah. And so I finished that shit, and I wait for a while, and it doesn't really kick in too hard. Honestly, I'm not like feeling it. It's like 45 minutes in or whatever. So eventually it gets to the point where it's like maybe an hour 15. You come home, and you say, what's up? You start talking to me, and as you're talking to me, I can tell it started to like, okay, I'm fucking getting in it.
Yeah, because you seemed pretty like unaffected by it. I'm like, when did you take it? And I was here like an hour ago. I was like,
you're like,
shit
what?
Don't work.
I know.
Like, what?
I was
an hour, bro.
I was insanely coherent, and honestly, my language centers never got that fucked up.
You seemed sober to me when I was talking to you. I was like, dude, you know. But you told me you're like, oh, I'm starting to feel.
I'm starting to feel it a little bit, and I was laying down in my bed at the time, so I was like super comfy. I was already ready to go. I knew what I wanted to do. It was still kind of bright out though, so, and I think this is part of what ends up happening that I'm gonna get to. But my blinds and my shades do not really block out the sun enough. And so I was laying in my room. Eventually, you know, you leave. You're like, all right, man, good luck. And I could tell it was at the point where it's like, all right, the second you want to go, you can go. You just have to close your eyes. Like, it was like one of those where if I left my eyes open, I could have felt that trippy, but not actually gone to that place. But if I close my eyes, I'd be able to go. So I close my eyes. I start getting these sounds in my ears. And keep in mind, this is a silent room, so everything that's being generated is being generated from my brain. And I'm hearing all these like futuristic, like literally Star Wars sounds. I'm talking like cruisers, you know, like going by, and kind of like beeps, and everything felt to me alien as fuck. Like, no, futuristic space traveling aliens is the whole vibe I got in the entire time. And eventually the visuals start coming in with my eyes closed, where it puts me into this spaceship. And it's like I thought of it as almost like it had like an airplane cockpit vibe, but I could tell there was this understanding that it was a spaceship. And I was in this spaceship. I'm hearing all these sounds. I look around in this spaceship, again, eyes closed, and I'm seeing these lights. These are like, you know, blinking lights, kind of like, you know, this is just a bunch of machines going on, and they're all working, and these are like normal warning lights or whatever, like, hey, you're about to go. And I'm sitting in the seat, and I see these like seat belts and stuff, and there are other people in the ship, but I don't remember a face. Like, I don't think there was anyone that seemed recognizable to me in any way. It was just more of an understanding that I was not the only one in this ship. And we get to this point where they're like, all right, are you ready? Are you ready? And like the whole time, again, it's not even necessarily spoken to me, but definitely a vibe of like, all right, we're preparing. We're about to do it. Are you ready to go? And I'm like, yep, I'm ready. Take me in, motherfuckers. Take me in.
Let's go.
Bring me into. I want to see infinity again. You know, I want to go back now that I know what I know. And they get to this point where I don't know if the ship itself that I was in morphed or what, but then there was a latch or like a hatch below me. And this hatch opens up, you know, kind of like open the pod bay doors type shit. And then I see this it's like a flat black circle with an aura of rainbow coming out around it. And it literally looks almost like a two-dimensional object in terms of like the circle. But its blackness is so black that there is nothing on the other side. Like, you cannot see it. And it was implied that I was supposed to jump down that hatch. And the whole time I'm just staring at this hatch like oh shit, all right.
That's where
all
we're
right.
going.
This is where we're going. I'm about to go in. And just as I'm like ready to go, I'm like, all right, I'm ready to do it. The hatch closes and the lights go off in the rocket ship, and the rocket ship is now gone. Now that is no longer part of my visual experience at all. And it was basically like, nope. I got this. It wasn't verbally told to me, but it was like this feeling of, nope.
You got rejected by the mushrooms.
Yep. They were like, nope, you don't need this. The same way that they told you that they didn't really think you needed it. They're like, no, you don't need this. And so then they kind of shut it down. I'm like, what? I'm like, wait, like, come on, like, let me go back. I want to see it. Come on, I'm ready for it. Like, and it was just implied to me, like, no, like, you don't really need this. I'm not going to take you there. And so eventually it got to the point where I start negotiating with the voice, and the voice would come in and out, but the feeling would always be there. So there was a dialogue that happened no matter what, but then there was a break in the transmission verbally. So I'm hearing a voice come in, and it's very auto-tune robot voice. And it's kind of this like, you know, like coming in and out like as if you're on a phone call where the connection's shitty. And I would hear a couple like parts of words, but I could never really make out the sentence. And so I was trying to like negotiate with them and like ask some questions like, hey, you know, so what about, because I got the vibe that they were aliens. I was like, damn, this seems like it's like another species communicating to me via like a frequency in my brain. And I was like, so what about, you know, alien technology? Like, is there space travel? You know, I was just trying to ask them like interesting, you know, I'm a fucking sci-fi nerd. So I was trying to ask them questions like, yo, what's going on in the universe? And they basically didn't really give me an answer. Like, they either didn't answer me half the time, or then when they were communicating, it was the broken up communication. And so at a certain point I was like, all right, I guess I'm not getting that out of it. And so I ended up having other experiences that I then started focusing on, because I like kind of gave up on the idea of them taking me to infinity, because it was clear that I wasn't able to go. And so I ended up then dealing with kind of some more of the personal stuff, like you said, some personal things that I was going through. You know, I was going through kind of like this creative burnout. I felt like every day I set out to do work, and then I would literally not do it. And I would look for other things to do the work. And it wasn't because I didn't really want to do it. It was because I had been doing this for like a year straight of like every day trying to do something. And even though I wasn't doing everything every day, it was like the drain of attempting to do that.
It's like a break from the grind every once
Yeah,
in a
it was
while,
like an unsustainable, just like, and so that was kind of killing me a little bit. And so I'd already been on that mentality of like, you know what, I know that I was on an unsustainable path. I need to relax. And so then the mushrooms, instead of having me go to infinity, had me deal with that. And they were like, yeah, listen, like, you got this. You can do this. You're a fucking, like, you're a predator, man. Like, you're a lion. Like, you're you know, king of the jungle type shit. You can do this, but you need to let go. You need to not give a fuck anymore. And you need to get to the point where you're not afraid to be who you really are in front of people. And so that was something that was really big to me, because, you know, lately I've been feeling like, man, you know, if I'm a little too me or a little too real, I'm going to like freak people out,
Dude,
you know?
I'm the same way. Sometimes you're like,
yeah, you get self-conscious about it.
You know you're not for everyone.
Yeah, exactly. And I know I'm not, and
so
that's okay.
You wanna please everyone, so you're like, well, if I just act like this, and they'll like me. Well, you're shooting yourself in the foot, because down the road, if that turns into someone you're hanging out with, they're gonna figure out who you really are eventually.
Yeah.
And it's painful to not be you, man. It
really is, dude. It was literally killing me in some level. Where it's not even like I was being fake. It was more of like I felt like I was turning down myself. Like I was powering down. I was hiding my key, like in Dragon Ball. Like I didn't want the androids to find me. So, the Sims. I didn't want the Sims to find me, so I was hiding my key. And I felt like this was a release for me. So there's other things that I was dealing with too. I had a recent, there was a recent death in my family, and he was a really awesome dude. I had some like really like on the frequency type conversations with this man. And I considered him family from the jump, and it's just a shame. He literally died out of nowhere. And I know that he's in a better place. He's joined the universal consciousness, and it's tough. And so I was kind of dealing with that. I was dealing with kind of like the mortality of like the people around me. And, my grandparents, they're older, and you never know when their time is going. And a couple of them their memories already, like they basically already aren't there. And so for me, I was dealing with a lot of that too. And so I had, like you said, that emotional cathartic release. Like I cried like a little fucking baby, dude. But, by the end of it, I felt so good. I was like, you know what? Like, I'm ready. Like, if and when they do end up passing, because everybody's going to die eventually, I'm like I've already emotionally prepared for that. And I'm now going to cherish the time that I do have with them. And so that was another big theme that I pulled out of it. And so although I didn't go to infinity, I didn't need to. What I really needed was kind of the embracing, like you said, who I really am and not being afraid to fucking hide it. Like I've been so afraid. I've talked about psychedelics on these podcasts already, but I've been so afraid to have a podcast just about them because then people are going to be like, oh, he's a druggie. And like, dude, literally, I've gotten that label. I've literally gotten that label by people that know me, right? And they've given me that label knowing that I'm not like some fucking druggy loser. Like they already know that, and yet they still give me that label, and there's still that stigma. And so for me, that was what was holding me back, is that I like had personally experienced it by people who I felt like these people should be open-minded enough that they should know that that's not really like that. I'm not just some big druggie. And in fact, I'm at this point, dude, I don't even smoke that much anymore. I really don't. I've had so many days these past few weeks where I just was like just not burned. I didn't feel like I needed to. Yeah. And I know that people sometimes probably view me as Kush Kev, like that's my fucking alter ego to some degree. But it feels good to just be like, you know what? I don't care if they know, because I know. Yeah. I know who I really am. Know yourself. And I love myself. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like,
for sure.
The fucking Logic's got that, I'm a good man. I love myself. I know who I am. Yeah, I love myself. Like, dude, that's how I feel right now. It's like, I know I'm a good person. I know I do the best that I can to do the right thing in the right moment. And if other people are going to fucking make a judgment about me because I like to explore my own mind with psychedelics and with marijuana, well then, dude, go ahead. You can be ignorant. I don't care.
Yeah, right.
I'm finally at that point, which is amazing. And that's why I feel comfortable dropping a podcast like this where we talk about this shit, because I don't care anymore. I genuinely don't. I'm like, you know what? This is me. And if you understand the nuance of it, you're going to get it.
Yeah, dude. And that's the most important part. Just own it. And I mean, that I've been the same way for a while. I always loved myself, or, the past few years, I've really been working on myself, and I really do love myself. And but there was some part of the integration where I still would worry about what other people think. And no matter how much I told myself, don't worry what others think, don't worry, it wasn't going away. Me meditating on it and me fucking writing it down wasn't doing it. But that mushroom trip fully integrated it and tore that fear out of me. And I just feel like, I know myself more than ever. Like I said, like really just owning the things that I used to be self-conscious about and insecure about. Like,
those things are the things that make you powerful.
Yeah, and those are the things that some people are going to love them, man. They're going to love the fact that I'm this out there weird guy that makes this weird art, and we got 25 mirrors on our wall over there. Like, but then some people aren't gonna fuck with that, and it's fine. And those are the people. You're not meant to please everyone, man. You're meant to be around a select group of people that embrace you, love you for who you are, and bring you up, and that's everyone. And we were talking about shrinking ourselves down, and that's something I found myself doing a lot, dude, man. Like just shrinking myself down,
turning the volume down,
and it's really posture too, man. I would feel myself like shoulders kind of collapsing and just like being quieter around certain people and certain times because I felt like they didn't want me to be who, and that was all in my head. Like, who knows what these people?
I mean, dude, they might have not wanted you to be who you are. That might not have even been wrong, but fuck that.
But fuck that. Exactly. Really,
Fuck that.
Fuck that. You be who you are. But sometimes you think that by shrinking yourself down, you're like, by me not being loud, by me being quieter, it's making a better environment for people. But no, when you really are yourself 100%, you give everyone else permission to be weird. It's like an improv class. Most classes, you'd be real, like, an improv class is such a special place because you get everyone in there screaming like maniacs, running around being silly. No one's worried about getting judged. But most of the time, for you to do that thing in a normal room of people, you wouldn't feel. But what I'm saying is, when you be yourself and be wild and be authentic, you give everyone else permission. They're like, oh, he's being himself. He's being a weirdo right now. I could be a weirdo. I could be like,
dude, it gives people comfort because you're comfortable with yourself and you're in your own comfort zone, that people they feel that energy. And although they don't maybe even understand why they feel that way, it's contagious. There's, how much 90% of communication is nonverbal, right? Like, that's part of it. It's like, just, if you're just you and you're fucking 100% you, that just comes off.
And some people are always like, and I think maybe we're all always like that, but I know, like, as a kid, I'm sure I was always just like myself. You never think twice about what you're doing, but then as you grow up, because of some of the feedback you get, you start thinking like that. And I'm a very introspective person, and my mind runs rapid all the time. So you can overthink yourself, paralysis by analysis. I know some people don't deal with that. Some people are like, what the fuck are you talking about? I'm myself all the time.
I literally never think about anything.
Yeah. I envy those people sometimes because I'm like, dude, they don't got a care in the world. They really, there's some people you just know they don't give a fuck. And I've always kind of envied that. And I've been there at certain times, but it's
not always a healthy not give a fuck,
and
though.
It's not.
Sometimes it's like damn, you don't give a fuck about anyone else at all.
Yeah, and that's
like, you're just being selfish.
But then the opposite is worse, man. To
care too much
what other people think, and to just like paralyze yourself with fear and stuff. And it's just like, lately it's ever since, dude, it just felt good. I felt like way more confident, and it's just like I'm there, man. Like, I was already 90% there. I got the last kick in the ass. They're like, let's go, bro. Like, here you go. Like, we're showing you the fucking. It was cool, man. I felt like I got a map shown of like, this is who you fucking are. This is the part that's been scaring the shit out of you. Like, you're worried about that, but that's the cool part, man. Show that shit off. Like, fucking show your battle scars. Like, fucking, you're not perfect. Like, quit trying to be someone you're not, dude. Be the fucking goofball that you fucking are. And that's the easiest shit to do, dude. It's so easy to be yourself.
Dude, it's harder to be the mask.
Yeah, it's stressful, and that's why it's just like, dude, such a weight off my shoulder. I'm like, I don't give a fuck, man. I really don't. And it feels so good. And it's just like, man, for anyone going through that, like, and looking for a way out, I would be like, dude, maybe take some mushrooms.
You don't even have to take 5 grams to get the initial part.
No,
of
you
that.
really don't. I think maybe I could have got that on way less. But this was.
There's something about it, though, that it resets you.
There's something about getting like shook into the core, like getting like a shakedown.
You have
like
to be completely
a
derailed.
Thorough cleanse, like going to the fucking loony bin, and then getting out and being like, okay, because there is
you
something.
come back and you appreciate your body.
Because you go into like this psychosis, this insane world, and then the next day your brain's completely normal. And personally, I don't miss that psychosis. It was like, that was fun. But now I really appreciate just being normal, because sometimes that's where it could trip people up while they're tripping. Am I going to be like this forever?
Yeah.
They're going to have to lock me up in a loony bin because I'm just going to be like that. No, it never happens. It wears off and you go back to normal. But you feel like when you're back to normal, you almost appreciate it more because you feel like it feels like that turn, like your brain's getting a good scrub down. Like everything is getting.
It's brainwashing, but like in the more literal sense of like washing your brain in the shower.
Getting some soap in there, scrubbing it down, and getting it all clean. But yeah.
And something I want to make sure I emphasize, because there's always so many disclaimers with this shit, that I want to make sure that people understand the nuance of how we view it, is it's not about chasing that high, because what it's really about is creating a new baseline that is higher than it was before. And so if you're always chasing the high and you're only achieving this mentality from these altered states, then you're missing the point. The whole point is to take what you learn at these. It's like getting teleported. I read this on Reddit, so I thought it was a good analogy. It's like getting teleported to the top of a mountain and seeing what the peak is like, and then it transports you back to the bottom of the mountain. You still have to fucking climb the mountain to get back there, But it shows you what it's like to be up there, so it gives you that motivation to climb the mountain.
Yeah. No, for sure. And it's like integration is a big part. And I wanted to say, like, what you did is very important, to not fight what they're giving you, because you want to have intentions going in, but if things don't go the way you intended, don't fight it. They closed the wormhole on you. They said no. You could have sat there and argued with them for the rest of the trip, and you wouldn't have gotten that other cathartic stuff. But you kind of have to accept what the experience is. If it's not what you thought it was going to be, take it for what it is. And I mean, that's what you should do with life, dude. Like,
not everyone's going to be a chicken dolphin person. Yeah. Not everyone's going to be.
And I wouldn't recommend it for everyone. It's a semi-terrifying thing to be, but
it's usually tailored to you. It's usually going to give you, especially mushrooms. It's going to give you the experience.
And if we're to believe like what most scientists would tell us, it is your brain. So your brain's going to give you. I mean, it makes sense to me
it's based off of your data set
that you went to the sci-fi place, the Star Wars. That just makes sense to me.
It does. Yeah.
And then maybe that tells you what's going on inside my brain, that I became a chicken dolphin motherfucker. And there's Jimi Hendrix and the Beatles and all these other people. But it's just like. You got to accept what it gives to you and don't fight it, because that's another thing, like you said, in your other experiences where you're fighting it and really like it's just like almost accept it. Another big part of like while I was tripping and freaking out, it would just like breathe. And Wim Hof, like people should look him up, amazing dude. But he was on a podcast, I think I forget whose, but they ask him what a quote you would put on a billboard. And he said, "Breathe, motherfucker, breathe." Like, that was his quote, just breathe. And I kept hearing that while I was tripping, "Breathe, motherfucker, breathe." Because you forget to breathe. You're so tense and free. And there was so much of it was deep breathing while I was going through it. It was just, and like, how often do you actually take giant deep breaths? And I read some study saying like, dude, 7 deep breaths can literally change
the physiology of
your body.
I think it was from that podcast.
Yeah.
I think it was the Tim Ferriss podcast.
Yeah, it is a Tim Ferriss. And that's what the Wim Hof was. I think Tim Ferriss asked him what would be on your billboard. And it was, "Breathe, motherfucker, breathe."
Yeah.
but that was a big part of it too, is just breathing through it, accepting it. Like, I did not think I was going to experience that. You know, I literally I had intentions going in, like what I wanted to work on, but I had no idea. Like,
you didn't know it was going to show you in that way.
I didn't know I was going to go to infinity. I didn't know how I was going to I'll tell you, like, I was kind of scared shitless doing it. And it was like literally like, should I do this? I want to do this. I've heard good things, but it's just, it's intense, and you can't really be prepared for it. You can be a little bit prepared, but I'm just saying, you accept what you're given and you play the fucking hand you're dealt the best you can, and take whatever wisdom they give you, and try to integrate it.
And then bring it to your sober state. It can't be about just getting to these highs. Like, I want to stress that, because when you first get into psychedelics, and I know that this is how I was, I can't speak for you, Joey, but when I first got into it, I was just so fascinated by the whole thing that I did the shit out of them that first summer. Like, I just did them so often.
Well, we're talking about it in a therapeutic way. Like, I did it very therapeutic, medicinal way. But in the past, I'd done it for recreation. Like, it's fun to trip with your friends and have a good time and listen to music.
Well, when I was doing it, it was therapeutic for me, and that's why I kept doing it.
It's almost always therapeutic in some way. But I'm saying, if sometimes your intentions might be like, oh, we're just gonna eat some mushrooms, we're gonna have a good time, we're gonna have some good laughs.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that.
You're gonna get some emotional therapy out of it if you want to or not, because I feel like the drug is just kind of like that. But if you set out to be like, yo, I got some shit, I got some demons to fucking fight, bro. Like, I'm going knocking on the devil's door. I'm getting my soul back. If that's your intention going in, I think you're gonna get what you want. You're probably gonna get dealt some shit you didn't expect. But I think if you're using them medicinally and you're trying to deal with some issues you have, like, don't take our word for it. Look it up. And MAPS is some people. We should give some people some resources in the notes, because there's a lot of research. People are using it for PTSD, depression, all sorts of issues, because
California,
because mushrooms also creates neurogenesis, which creates new pathways in your brain. So your brain can it could help you deal with addiction, because you can rewrite these neurologic pathways in your brain, and it can actually eliminate some of the bad ones and combine
psilocybin, niacin, and lion's mane together, and you're like promoting neurogenesis like crazy.
Yeah, because I feel it. Like I said, I feel like some fear had been like ripped out of me, and if you wanted to go scientifically into it, it was probably there was some neurologic pathways in my brain that were like the thought patterns of fear on a daily basis, and those had probably been rewritten over, and they're just gone at this point. And that's fucking beautiful. Like,
no, that's what you want.
It's perfect.
When I first saw Infinity, and really it's kind of the only time I saw Infinity, now that I think about it, because a lot of my other experiences I've hung out with lower dosages. When I first saw Infinity, after that experience, although it was a little bit traumatic when I was going through the thought loop part, afterwards, I felt this amazing sense of weight lifted, and I legitimately, since then, I don't fear my death at all. Like, I mean, I don't want to die. I'm young. Like, I want to live a long life because there's a lot of things I want to do, but I don't actually fear my death. Like, when I die, I'll die, and I'll be okay with it.
That's something that they use mushrooms for a lot, or like people facing mortality issues, like on their deathbed with terminal illnesses.
Anyone with terminal illness, dude, do mushrooms.
Yeah.
You'll feel okay about dying.
Because, and it's hard, like I said, it's hard to even put into words, but like after you experience that thing, it's hard to believe that there's not something after death. Until like,
even if it's not with you as an individual anymore.
Yeah, and it's
you know
just
what
like
I mean?
where I went on my trip, it felt like that was almost like, you know, maybe where you go when you die. Because I felt like purgatory is a bad word because I think it's got some negative connotations to it. But it felt like, looking at it now, it almost felt like a purgatory where it felt like the sea of souls. There was just all these souls mishmashing around, and everyone was having fun and being silly, and you're experiencing things. But it was going on forever, and it was just this loop, and it kind of gave me the vibe like
Logic's
maybe,
album, Everybody.
Yeah, like maybe this is what happens when you die. Like, it just felt like millions of souls just swimming in this ocean together and like playing around. But then they finally, like, I got to put my soul back into my body, and damn, am I excited to just be me again. And it was just like re-energized and just on fire. Like the days following was just like so much easier to be like kind to people. And I always try to be kind, but it was just like not even having to put effort into it. It's just like I just look at things, I'm like, I'm alive. Like, I'm just so happy. Like, and
My
I can't
feet are on
explain
the
it.
ground.
And
I'm here.
dude, I haven't smoked weed since then. I haven't drank. Like, maybe that's why I'm still feeling good. I haven't fucking dirtied up my soul. It's still pure but I haven't even thought about that. It's just like I feel good, and people like, mushrooms aren't addictive. I don't want to go do the 5 grams again. I have no desire. Maybe years from now, if I'm in a rut again, I would go back to that. But I feel no need to, like, you know, it's not a dragon I'm chasing or anything. It's like something that experience changed me, and I feel awesome. And right now I don't feel like there's any more work to do
in
like,
that regard.
In that regard. I mean, the work to do now is for me to fucking finish the music, to fucking finish the art, to make all the moves that I know, dude, because I know everything I have to do. But fear has paralyzed me a lot of days from fully moving and doing things. And it's just like, it was that night, that final kick in the ass. Like, let's go, let's get it. Summer's around the corner. Chicago's gonna be fucking off the chain.
Dude, that's the biggest thing for me as a Floridian who loves the fucking summertime and loves the.
I think
warmth.
that's part of what both we were doing. Dude,
we were
seasonal
both dealing,
depression is real shit.
We definitely were both dealing with that. We felt like we couldn't go outside. It's always cold.
Dude,
it's been kind of shitty lately, but it's starting to warm up a little bit. So, and I think part of that, it's like it's helpful that we're going through.
And you'll see, you really appreciate the
our
summer
progression
when it gets here, because after going through the fucking winter, you know, you deal with it. You're like, I earned this summer.
You're like, I get to go outside every day.
I'm waking up early every day. I'm seasoned.
We're flying the fucking drone, dude. We're going out there. We're flying the drone.
I'm going to California tomorrow. I'm flying this drone.
Gimbals.
Yeah, dude. Good shit in the pipeline, man.
For real. Like stuff. we got some stuff coming, guys. Like that's the thing, is that we both were dealing with. I was dealing with burnout and fear, and then you were dealing with fear. And honestly, probably a little bit of burnout, but in general, it's like those were things that we've been wanting to do a number of projects, and we just have not been able to do it because of those things. Those things were literally in our way.
Well,
I had creative blocks.
A lot of them take a lot of work, and like for me, like music's one of my biggest passions. And like for the past 3 years, I've been working on music. I haven't released any music, and there's something to that. And I didn't feel like I was ready. I felt like I still had to get better and better and better. And then I got to a point where I was like, oh, I feel like I'm good enough. But now I'm just scared because it's been so long since I put anything out. And that's when the fear started fucking with me. But, I mean, I think there is something to, like, taking your time and getting good at things. But make sure that, when it comes time to fucking put it out to the world, like,
you
got to do it. You got to share it, dude.
Yeah, you got to share it.
That's my whole
thing.
Get
the feedback.
Yeah, go share it with people, and because a lot of people can benefit. I think some people will benefit for this conversation, but if we were too scared to share this and we would have just had this conversation without the microphones on, then who's benefiting?
Yeah, only us, which we already benefited.
Yeah.
We already got the benefit.
I got to be the chicken dolphin. I got to benefit.
Yeah, I got to see the wormhole that I wasn't allowed to go in. But for real, I think ultimately what I think we both learned is that you have to just be true to yourself, and being true to yourself means you're going to alienate some people, and there are going to be some people that are going to listen to this, and they're going to be like, oh man, I can't fuck with these people at all. And you know what? That's okay. Like I got no malice towards you. It's
for
fine.
everybody,
It's
dude.
not for you. Then that's
Psychedelics aren't
cool,
for
man.
everybody. My personality isn't for everybody. Like,
Yep.
you know, there's a lot of people's personality that isn't for me, and it's like I don't hate them. I don't like, and if you don't fuck with me, that's fine. Like, it's just it is what it is, and you take it, but don't stop being you because this one person doesn't fuck with you. There's always going to be, there's how many people on earth, billion something people, dude.
Yeah.
You can find 100 people that are going to love you for who you are, man. And do you need more than 100? Do you need more than 10 people in your life that really love you and appreciate you for who you are and help you build up?
Probably not.
No.
Honestly.
So, you know, go through it, and it's like, be yourself, and maybe you got to go through 100 people to find your new
one
best
good
friend.
one. Yeah.
And find
Yeah.
one good one that you and them resonate on some shit. And it's like, that's more important. You know, one real friend's better than 100 fake friends, right? So,
Dude, 1,000%.
yeah.
And I mean, think about, you know, we met on some off chance thing, and we just immediately, we could tell that we just vibed.
Yeah, dude.
And that's just, you see it immediately. So when you meet those people that you know you're going to click with, it just happens.
Yeah, dude. It's fucking,
you just let the universe take over,
dude.
man.
Yeah, you just fucking.
You got to trust in the process, trust in the universe. And you got to go Ultra Instinct, man, for my Dragon Ball Super fans. You got to go Ultra Instinct. You have to just feel without thinking, because there's some degree of thinking and planning that needs to be made when you're doing something. But then there's a certain point where you got to improvise and you got to let go.
Some shit.
Yes, and the shit out of the universe, guys. So with that, I think we'll end it. I hope you guys really enjoyed this one, because this took a lot for us to get to this point, to feel comfortable talking about stuff on such an abstract level that opens us up to such easy ways to attack us. But you know what? It is what it is.
Yeah,
we had profound experiences. They changed our lives, and they might be able to change yours too. Just, you know, take some precautions. Don't take these things lightly. We certainly don't. Treat them with respect. These are spiritual tools meant for personal growth and development, not just drugs for recreation. Peace out.
Deuces.